Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first official intro chat about the course that we are going to be doing together. Who are we going to be doing this with? Well, we're going to be doing it with Steve Oliver, my good friend. Welcome, Steve.
Good morning, Rose.
Well, this is the beginning of something very special. We got some good feedback already, especially since our last stream. And so today, this isn't the course. This is just a hey, everybody, this is what it's going to be like. This is what you can expect, and what the course is exactly going to be about. I did my little intro earlier to get everyone ready to hopefully show up for this stream. But today, Steve is going to kind of lead the way and help everyone understand what this is all about. Does that sound good, Steve?
That's fantastic. Yes. And it's add courses. One is a Wet Your Feet Introduction to Meditation, which I've been working on for about 10 years. I started with a local university here in Halifax, Dalhousie University. And I've been teaching it every year to their faculty, to staff. And it's been well received. And what I found out was that most people have heard about meditation, but very few people have really sat down and had a good explanation and a good sort of overview of what it is and what it can do. And so I made this 10-unit course, which we'll go into later. And then the other course is a more advanced drill in, understand. And you might say, why would we want to know? Well, because the other guys, the other people out there know how we think. And they're using that, I would say, maybe against us, or they're using it to their advantage. And we're not taught this in schools. And when I was working with the different universities here in Halifax, we were doing research projects, and the scientists I was talking to, they didn't know anything about this either. And I asked them, why isn't this taught in the university curriculum? Because it's been common knowledge now for about 20 years. And they just shrugged, they don't know. Well, there's a lot of things that, the way it was explained to me is that material takes a long time to migrate into the accepted curriculum of universities. Me being an outside agent, I work both with universities and with the community, the restrictions on them. And so we're researching it. So it's what we found out was that everything that motivates you in life is generated within you. And if an advertiser can get inside you and make you think you need something, then you go out and buy it. If they can't get inside you and make you think you need it, you won't buy it. So the whole art of advertising is to get you motivated, to make you think you need something. So the question is, what is it they're doing? So let me flip it another way. If you've ever tried to stop a behavior, say smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or losing weight, and really difficult, just behavior. And so it's like trying to put spilled water back into the glass. When you're observing your behavior, or you're observing your mental state, if you're happy, sad, depressed, whatever it is, by the time you're observing it, it's already happened. What you need to do is to get before it actually manifests itself. And that's what the map is all about. And that's what I think they have been researching since probably the 1920s up and through World War II, and definitely after World War II. They were researching how to get to the actual core of the individual And there are lots of movies written about it. The Manchurian Candidate is one. So those are the two courses. So the first one, the meditation one, is we're offer it for free to everyone who's here. And then the internal map, we're going to offer that under the Patreon umbrella. And that for a number of reasons. Maybe Rose, you can talk a little bit about why we're creating the Patreon environment.
All right. I turned off my mic. I turned off my camera because you were cutting out for me. But it seems like everyone in chat is okay with the sound. But just in case you start cutting out, let's just turn off our cameras so that I could hear you at the very least. So I explained in the little intro stream this morning to get everyone aware of this stream that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about basically uh, is understanding this is how the people who understand the occult, the people like the CIA who have been studying human psychology all the way back to maybe Jung, and then even in the alchemical ideas of psychology, which is basically astrology. It's just this is all information that is being used against us when it's hidden from the regular man, but then known by the people in control, the people who control the money, and the people who are using these agendas, because we know that there's an agenda at play. And so, like Steve was saying, a lot of people don't even understand how to think about this internal map of reality. I'm looking forward to understanding it further, but this is a sort of thing that the alphabet agencies, like the CIA, for example, I don't know if it's specifically them, but this is the sort of thing that they don't want people to know about. And so they'll inject things into society through social engineering to, in one way or another, stop people from fully understanding this. Because if we can deprogram ourselves in this way, I think that that will really be great for this community. Because all of us here have already deprogrammed from like the spitting ball, and that, you know, government has our best interest in mind. Like that is an element of deprogramming. But this will just take it to another level where it kind of, what I'm thinking and expecting is that I hope that this process of meditation starts like a new kind of healing, and then also to kind of graduate to that higher mind idea where I can detect the ring of truth and I can use my discernment even better and pretty much understand that, like, let's say I am at an event where there's a big screen, or a sports bar where there's a screen, and I'm going to be able to see the news and the poppycock and discern what exactly is going on, because I'm going to be able to understand my internal map of reality to assess the propaganda that is being put my way. Did I get any of that right?
Wow. Yes, of course you did. Of course you
Okay.
did. I mean, there's an affinity. You immediately latched on to where I was coming from, and it was fantastic. Um, I think if we look at our curriculum, we'll find that there are things that have been excluded from our education for very good reasons. For instance, we're not taught how to balance a bank account in school. We're not taught how to assess loans. I'm not taught, some really basic things, which I know if by the time I was getting active, taking on loans and getting credit cards, if I had known about compounding, I may have taken my time in getting these loans. So those are the two courses. And my objective here is to, one, get what I've been studying for a long time out into the public, and B, through the Patreon environment. I know that, Rose, we were talking, you have some goals. I think that through it, I would like to see a growth. And if there's a growth through the Patreon, perhaps we were talking about this, we can centralize some of this work into a location where people can come and join us live in person and study meditation, healing. And there's some other aspects. I teach Tai Chi as well. I've been studying that for decades. And I'd like to be able to migrate to an environment where we can get together. But the first step is just to create the community, to create the energy. And that's my goal with the Patreon. What's your goal with the Patreon, Rose?
Well, my goal with the Patreon is to practice and understand meditation for the first time in my life, truly give it some effort and attention, and see how I can take control over my mind. I deal with a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. I am worried about my purpose in the world. I want to connect to the spiritual realm. When people tell me about things like astral travel, or when people tell me about lucid dreaming or dreaming at all, I actually don't really dream. Jason has been having heavier dreams and sleeping better as a result of this aqua cure that we just bought. And although I'm experiencing benefits, anything that ever has to do with interfacing with the higher self, the spiritual realm, or just um, something different than what I experience with my physical senses, it just doesn't seem to work on me like it does others. So, in a way, I almost have to make a decision that I'm going to invest into this and give it my attention. And then I guess open up my mind so that maybe that's the key to all of the other things that I do in my life that are healthy, so that it's like not just my physical body, but that my spiritual body can absorb that intention. Because right now, it seems like it wouldn't surprise me if it was a mental block that is preventing a lot of my other efforts from having the outcome I'm expecting. What do you think about that idea?
Okay, I think you're hitting right into an area that probably is on many people's minds. The fact that they've been programmed to think they can't meditate. It's my belief that the overwhelming majority of people who walk around thinking they can't meditate is because they were programmed to believe they can't meditate. And what you will find out when we do, I'm hoping we can do a little test meditation so that we can actually look at what happens when you meditate and examine it. And what you will find is what is being called a failure to meditate is actually the act of meditating. So it's been flipped around on people. And quite often in a beginning session like this, I get people to do a 1 minute, maybe a 2 minute meditation, very short, but that's long enough for what I'm talking about to be observed. So you can observe in this 1 or 2 minute quick meditation the resistance you get and what you are calling a failure. And we can identify that as actually maybe you were succeeding. Do you think that might be something people would like to try, Rose?
Absolutely. And this is what we discussed last night, where
Mm-hmm.
everything I always thought made me a failure now, and I'm going to have to really find out through the course if this is true, because only I know the inner workings of my mind. But if what you told me was true, and I think it is because it makes sense, then I think I've already been a master meditator already. And it's just understanding the goal of meditation so that I can harness the ability that I already have and put my intention into it instead of thinking, oh, I'm a failure, so I'm just going to stop. For example, I was playing the piano the other day. Oh, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead, please.
When I was playing the piano the other day, I was thinking about all sorts of things. And even though I was playing, I hope no one laughs at me, but I was playing Fiona Apple just because the chords are easy, okay? And I can sing along with it. And then all of a sudden, I got an earworm, and it made me leave and come and talk to Jason because he's like, compared to me, he's advanced in meditation. He has astral traveled. He's very interfacing with the spiritual realm, and and well, basically, he's just very zen, and I'm just thinking about him because I love him. So let me move on. I was playing the piano, and you're not going to believe what came into my head as I'm trying to play Fiona Apple. It's something from the 90s because I had also been thinking about how everything just seems to have that was the good times technically 70s, 80s, 90s. Those are really good decades, and then now it's like the fall after 9/11 when they really started to dumb down and do that incremental social engineering in the light of day. And so, even though I'll hear a song that I never liked, because it was from the 90s when I was younger and it was a time before all of this madness became into the light of day, uh, it distracted me from playing the piano. And it was that song where it goes, yeah, hey, wanna be my lover, yeah, hey. Hopefully, you don't know what that song is, but I'm like, this is not my kind of music. This is not the appropriate time. But I just kind of went, because I consider piano meditation, I stopped and I thought, now is not the time for this. And I would really like to play this song right now. But, you know, and I tried to say, like, thank you and politely move on. And this is the sort of thing we were talking about. That's successful. It's okay that the crazy nostalgia programming from whatever, uh, jumped into my mind, but then I continued to play the piano. So did I kind of answer your question there about the failure aspect?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it's been flipped because what is are born, we are born meditating. Meditating is something we do naturally. We go to sleep every night for whatever number of hours, and that's a form of meditation. Meditation is really the most natural thing that we can do. What it feels weird is when we actually then try to and do what is called the art of doing nothing, and that's something that we need to talk about. We're going to practice the art of doing nothing, which is an application of meditation, and we're going to sit still, and you can either close your eyes or you can look at something in the room, something in front of you, be a speck. If they look at that, and if you can either look at something that you can focus on, or when you close your eyes, you might see something that is sometimes called a fuzzy dot. You close your eyes and you'll see it's actually an artifact from the optic nerve. You'll see like a little light. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to try to meditate on that for 1 minute and then come back. And what I'd like to get back feedback in the chat is what people experience if they found it really easy to be able to focus on the fuzzy dot with their eyes closed, or if they found it really difficult to stay focused on one thing. Is that clear? Do you think, Rose? Do you think that's playing clearly?
Well, actually,
This
you're
is a
cutting out again. So
meditation approach.
turn off your camera. I'll turn off my camera just to make sure I can understand you.
Okay. Okay, so to
I
do
haven't heard
the
any. Oh,
meditation,
oh, hold on. Sorry. I haven't done. I'm sorry. Will you repeat that? I just got distracted because I just wanted to make sure that there was no complaints from the chat, but hopefully now I'll be able to hear you. So, where were we?
okay. Yeah, when I watched the playback from our first stream, it seemed to be everything seemed to be flowing normal. It may be that our feedback is delayed. Anyway, to do this short little test meditation, all you're going to do is close your eyes if you want to and look at, you'll see some little lights and things flashing when you close your eyes. Just stare at one of them and focus on it for a minute. Or if you don't want to close your eyes, you can focus on something. If there's a spot on a table or something on the wall that you can focus on for just 1 minute. And then after we've done that, we will talk about it. And so that's all you're supposed to do when you meditate. This is classic meditation. It's just to focus on one thing. It's practicing the art of doing nothing. But some people find that very difficult. And what I'd like to be able to get feedback from is those people who found it difficult to indicate it and what kinds of things happen and so on like that. So Rose, you can be my guinea pig, okay? You can tell me what you've experienced.
Okay, so
So do
I
you
would
want?
like to, we have a little bit of a delay, but I would like to be the guinea pig. Maybe we can look in the chat a little bit and see how people differed from my reaction. But before we begin, do you want me to put on some music for 1 minute, or do you have music that you can put next to your mic for 1 minute? And is it okay if I just stare at the white avatar that you have because your camera's turned off? Is that something I can stare at?
Um, yes, you can stare at the little white avatar for a minute. And I would say, let's not put music on, and I'll explain why in a minute. Let's
Because you
just,
want us to do nothing.
well, kind of, but you can't mean you can use music if you want, but I think we're going to just go with whatever is in your environment. People watching, whatever's in your environment is there, and
Okay.
you're not to you're not trying to exclude anything in particular. You're just going to focus on one thing, just for a minute, and then we'll come back.
Okay, I'm so sorry that I just have one
You
more
ready?
question. I just have one more question just because
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
doing this for the 39 people out there. Someone out there might be just as new at this as me. I'm sitting in this recliner. I'm super comfortable. I've got this white circle
Mm-hmm.
in front of me that I'm ready to focus on, but I can already tell you there's a lot of noises of things that are plugged in. I'm next to a window with all of these branches. I've got a very nice smelling candle. I got cats. So this is going to be hard for me. Like this 1 minute of this, you guys, this is really the beginning for me. So I'm ready to spend 1 minute looking at this white circle. And then am I waiting until you tell me? Because otherwise I'm going to want to look at that time. So am I waiting until someone tells me the minute's over?
Yeah, I will say start meditating, and then I will say stop meditating. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my watch. Just hang on for a minute.
Okay, thank you. All right, everyone. I hope we're all getting pumped up for my first time really making an effort. And if there's anyone out there doing this for the first time, then thank you for being on this journey with me. And for all of the experts
Okay,
out there, I
I've
hope
got
you're
my
excited.
watch. I got my watch. And this is an experiment, okay? So we're just going to meditate. I'm going to time it for 1 minute. And all I want you to do is two things. One, stay focused on that one thing you've picked. And at the same time, just be aware if you're finding it easy or difficult, be aware of what happens. Okay, on your mark, get set, and start focusing now. Okay, that was 1 full minute, and you can. So I've got a couple of questions. So maybe in the chat, I'm watching the chat here too. Maybe if you could put a 1 if you found it easy, or 2 if you found it somewhat difficult. Oh, I see some 2s. Oh, Rose, you got a 1. Oh, I see a 3. Mystic Knight. Wow. Oh, some 1s. Great. Lots of 1s. Easier. Great. Fantastic. Now that's good. So when you were meditating, Rose, oops, some more 1s. It felt like forever. Yeah, that's right, Edward. Time will take on a different dimension. And you might find, yep, that's true, James. You might find that at first feels easy and then it becomes difficult. And then it becomes easy again. It might come in waves.
Can I
but the
tell
most
you what
common
happened to
one
me?
is that one. Absolutely. What happened to you?
Okay. So I guess it is a 1-2 as well, like James. And thank you, James, for being here. This is like the best pleasant surprise. Okay. So at first, I was very dedicated, and I was saying in my mind, I'm thinking about the thing. I'm thinking about the thing. I'm thinking about the thing. And then I told myself to be quiet, and I looked, and then I looked at the time and then looked back. And then I looked at the chat and I thought to myself, oh my God, nobody's saying anything. That's really great. Everyone's doing this. And then I started looking and I told myself that I was going to stop doing that and keep looking. And then it ended. So it was really fast for me.
Yeah, yeah. So here's what I think most people experience. They started out looking at whatever it is they were focusing on, either with their eyes closed or open, and it was easy. Then all of a sudden, they weren't looking at whatever it is they were supposed to, they were doing something else. Either they were hearing something, or they were thinking about something, or they were thinking about how easy it was. They were in some way got distracted. Typically, it would be by hearing something, seeing something else, or thinking something else. At that point, they might feel that they made a mistake or get excited and then look back at whatever it is. And so that act of it's kind of like when you fall asleep at night and you never can remember falling asleep. Did you ever have that, Rose?
Yeah.
Right. So when you're meditating, you can never really catch when you stop focusing. You're just all of a sudden you're looking at something else. So there's that period where you switched, but you don't remember doing the switching. So that's the magical part of this. So there's 2 magical parts. One is when you go off into a dream and you're thinking about something else, and then you realize that you're not doing what you had said you were going to do. You're doing something else, and you pull yourself back. The way that you bring yourself back into focus is where the problem occurs. Most people get upset when they find that they're not meditating on what they were supposed to be meditating, and that creates a ripple. It creates like an anxiety. What in the initial phase of this, what I'd like people to do when you're sitting meditating and you find that you're looking or thinking or doing something else, you are to disconnect from that in a very special way. It's called refocusing, disconnecting, and refocusing. Now, what you're disconnecting from is very, very important because that comes from your subconscious. You're sitting there consciously focusing on something, and then all of a sudden you're looking or thinking of something else. You're actually engaged with your subconscious at that point. Your subconscious said, Steve or Rose or whomever, oh, look at this. This is more important. How you disconnect from that is where the trick is. And I think I mentioned to you the other night, the way you disconnect from that distraction is to politely acknowledge it and to politely say to your subconscious, oh, thank you for telling me I need to do my taxes, but right now I'm meditating. I'm going to go back to
try to do
meditating.
that.
Yes, thank you for
To be
bringing
polite.
that to my
And maybe
attention.
you could talk about why being polite is important.
Yes, it's very, very important that you don't have to say those many words, but when you find that you're engaged with some other thought process, to disconnect politely, maybe by thinking, "Oh, okay, I'll get back to that later," and to go to your main focal point. The reason that's important is because you are actually talking to your subconscious then. You're actually interacting with yourself. And the way that you interact with your subconscious, your greater self, is very important. You need to show your greater self some respect, not to get angry at it, your greater self, but to acknowledge it politely. And when your subconscious or your greater self becomes aware that you actually want to do this, it will leave you alone eventually. It will say, okay, I'll help you out. But we're going to get into how to communicate with your subconscious in great detail in both the meditation course and, of course, in the internal map of reality. But this is one of the key reasons to meditate is to get back into rapport with your greater self. So when you sit and you're focusing on whatever it is you're focusing on and you get distracted, realize that is you distracting you. Your greater self is distracting you. And when you disconnect, you do it politely and, with a little bit of love and go back to what you're focusing on. It's very, very important. If you do it that way, then when you go back to focusing, there's no negatives, there's no ripple, there's no negative effect. You actually, I did notice in the chat that some people felt they wanted to meditate longer. That's definitely a natural feeling that you will get when you do this.
Now, for all of the things that I did, and another thing I also mentioned was I looked at the little scrolling thing going down the bottom. So I think when I meditate, if I'm going to be doing it on a stream with you, I better turn that thing off. So, or maybe I'm supposed to keep it there, and then that will make me a master meditator, not to look at that thing.
Well, here's the thing. I noticed that Waters Above said that she remembered a dream. You never know what your subconscious is going to bring to you. You just never know. So when you sit down to meditate, the reason I said, no, don't put on music, because that's a kind of a predecided, what's the word I'm looking
thing
for?
To be distracted.
It's that's a laid on deciding that. But it's not coming from your subconscious. When you sit down, you don't do anything contrived. That's the word I was looking for. You don't do anything contrived. You sit down, and then if your subconscious wants to talk to you, it will.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So you sit down without any contrived.
There is a little bit of delay, so I'm sorry. It didn't mean to interrupt you, but right now we just did that meditation exercise for 1 minute. So for today, we're coming on. We're almost at 40 minutes. Were we going to go over the course outline today, or is that something we were going to go over next week in anticipation of course number 1, which was potentially going to be the following week?
Yeah, I have 2 very quick outlines that I'd like to go over. I'd like to show what the basic flow of the introductory meditation course is. and then show what some of the key points in the internal map reality. And that's 2 slides. It'll only take a few minutes. I think it's important because what we'd like to do in each of these meditation sessions is to do a short little meditation like this, and also do what is called a guided meditation, which are really easy to do, and then a topic. So maybe I should just show that outline. Hey, Rose?
Yeah, I absolutely think we should show the outline today, and then maybe figure out what we're going to do next week, which is going to be like a totally like free stream intro, and then start the course. And will the course start out with the Patreon from the get-go, or are we going to do a few?
Yeah, well, the way we set the Patreon, we set up an early bird sign up for the Patreon. So the regular price for the Patreon is $10 a month, which would be like, I don't know, $2 a class or something like that. But we've set up a $5 a month early bird. So people who know they want to study the internal map and do both the internal meditation and the internal map, there's an early bird that they can take advantage of. So I think probably for the first while, we might run both, a little bit of both for a while. We can talk about it, but we'll wean into this. This is all brand new stuff for both of us. So, but definitely we'll go over the outlines now, and then next week we'll do the first unit of introduction to meditation, and maybe a little bit of a taster for the internal map.
Okay, great. Let's get into that outline now. But at first, I want to roll out to my patio and sit outside while I'm listening to you. And then one more thing, I see this long comment on Facebook, and I was wondering if you could take a look at this comment and give me your thoughts. I have a sweater. It's 72 outside. I'm such a baby. I have to, analyze the weather before I go. But I'm just going to be quiet for a second while I roll past Jason, and because he's about to wake up for a meeting. I'll be right back.
Okay, so again, interesting. What I see quite often is 2 types of reactions from people where they say that meditation is really easy and you shouldn't really do anything on it. And other people say it's really difficult. And this one, it says here, focusing, run away from this guy. I have been doing 2 times a day meditation for almost 50 years. Meditation to be effective has to be totally natural, without any effort. I would never recommend focusing on a thought on a conscious level of the mind. You can cause stress in your mind if you. Sounds like a lot of stress in this one. Good luck. Well, I hear you, but you have to start somewhere. And where we start in the introductories, we just start with a very short meditation and helping to de-stress from the act of being distracted. And I have met people who said that they meditated for long periods of time or whatever, and have very rigid rules about what to do and what not to do and so on like that. I think in the beginning, as is quite often said, I think just being a natural, like a child, and you will get no have-tos from me. There are no musts or must-nots. As you proceed with your meditation, you will gain more confidence, and just like that. So that's my reaction to that, Rose. It sounded like very anxious response, and I see that sometimes from people who, for whatever reason, maybe had a difficult period when they were initially learning meditation. But what I noticed in the chat, I didn't see anyone having any kind of trauma in the chat. They were just relaxing, having fun, and meditating for a minute. Okay, so what do you think about that, Rose?
I think that's great. It's such a beautiful day in Louisiana. I'm going to be sitting here uh, in the sun while you go over this course outline, because I find that I'm going to be able to focus more on what you're saying, which is not meditation. It helps by listening skills. So that's a good point, is that there's a difference between meditation and then, you know, putting something beautiful around you and feeling the sun on your face to help you concentrate on information that's being given to you. So as you're giving me this information, I will not be meditating, but I will be taking mental notes and observing the majesty and beautiful of nature.
And as a general rule of thumb, I tend to avoid people who bring anxiety to the table. So if you are talking to someone and they have a lot of anxiety about something, probably back away from them, because you don't want the anxiety. So I'll leave that where it is. So I'm going to click my share button here. Share screen. So do you need to click something for me here, Rose?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? The glare. Let me go into the shade. I have to give you permission. Okay. So I don't see that you've asked me to share your screen. So try again by clicking share and then select what it should say, like the first option to show your full screen, and then click OK. That should be how it is. So it should say,
Okay.
choose what to share entire
Share
screen.
Entire screen. Okay.
All right.
And I'm just watching the monitor to see if it comes up. Can you see my screen yet? There we
Absolutely.
go.
We can all see your screen
Okay,
now.
so this is the introduction to meditation, and we take the approach here is that this is an excellent place to start. And the 10 sessions that we'll be looking at cover a very wide variety of topics associated with meditation. And the first session, it deals with the ancient approaches, and that's kind of an interesting one because, as you know, meditation as a practice has been around for thousands of years. And it's probably one of the oldest documented practices that we have. And so we'll look at that, and there's some learnings that we can draw from that. Then we'll look at when it came to North America, it came to the West, there were some variations, and we'll talk about how the Western culture looks at meditation, which is generally viewed as an Eastern approach. Then we'll get into the relaxation response, which is what people tend to talk about when they talk about meditation. They talk about relaxation. And so this is a bit of a trick because relaxation isn't necessarily as simple as it first sounds. Anyone who's maybe had a heavy, stressful period will know that relaxing when you're under stress is almost impossible. Then we'll get into left brain and right brain. And an area dealing with next is frequencies of the brain. And then we'll talk about the endocrine and the endocrine system, the glandular system, and how that relates to meditation. And something that I really find interesting, something called the cranial sacral response. And there's a relationship, a movement that takes place in your spine and sacrum and the cranium. They move in harmony together. And then we'll look at the nervous system. And then we'll leave the breathing till the very end. And there's something called pranayama breathing, which we should look at and at least know. And then we'll talk about developing practices. Now, these 10 sessions typically were done over 10 weeks. We'll probably take longer than 10 weeks to do these. I would say, some sessions we might do over 2 or 3 sessions. Some might be just one. Any questions there, Rose, or any comments? Okay, well, let's take a look at so this is the meditation. Let's take a look at the internal map of reality. Now, the internal map of reality is supplemented by meditation. So if you start meditating and developing your skills, you will naturally gain abilities in meditation. Okay.
I'm back and I don't know what happened, but my computer died. I think Steve. Okay, I'm back.
Okay, I'm still here.
Okay, good. I'm so sorry. Did you tell everyone that the stream? Did you? I'm so sorry because I just Skyped Steve saying, "Oh no, the stream ended," but something strange happened and I was kicked out. And then when I refreshed the page, it said that the stream ended. So then I backed out and then it was there and I came back in again. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, it's no problem. It still looks like the stream is here. So I just had finished going over the intro to meditation. I was just talking about the key components of the internal map. And I guess just to sort of reiterate what I was getting into is that as we start practicing our meditation, and hopefully you will start doing it on your own. You might want to do that 1 minute meditation on your own between now and next week. I would strongly recommend to sit down for a minute and just observe what happens when you begin to get distracted, and don't panic about it. Politely refocus and practice that. Now, in the internal map of reality, what we'll be looking at is understanding why there is a map and what it is. And that's probably where we will start on when we get going with this either next week or the week after. And what this leads into is understanding that we have something called modes of thinking, and understanding what thinking is and how you can break it down. Once you understand how you think and how we remember things, this will begin to build a really good understanding of how to use the map. Because the way that we have memories is how we build up something called our belief system. And we've already talked about how powerful the belief system is. The expression is, whether you're right or whether you're wrong, if you believe it, it will be true for you. So it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong about something. If it's a belief, for you, it will be a truth. And I always take that to heart. Then we go on and talk about something called filters. And what filters are?
Hey, Steve, I can't just, I have to step away for a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. What filters are? Filters are the way that we organize what we're experiencing. So, for instance, in the gentleman that put the comment in, that long comment about not wanting to focus, there was something that triggered that gentleman, right? So he observed people just gently trying to learn, trying to experience meditation. And rather than accepted that, it triggered something in him. Something filtered, something went on. And these filters are very, very powerful. And those of you who are in the, let's call it the truth community, you might try to convince somebody of something. Say you might believe that uh, creationism is true and that evolution didn't happen. So you want to sit down and convince someone that creationism is true, that evolution isn't. How difficult that is. And that's because of these filters. We filter things we don't want to receive, and we let things in that we do. And here's the fifth one, is something I think is really, really important. And I know that we'll spend a lot of time on this. Is something called a timeline. And I know there's a lot of talk about the Mandela effect. Well, each person has a timeline, and you build your timeline every day. Every experience you have, you add to this timeline. It's organized and sorted. And can it be manipulated by external forces? It appears to be. It appears to be something that the bad guys have figured out how to manipulate and how to interfere with people's timelines. So we'll talk about that and what's in a timeline. The main use that I put a timeline to is identifying something called a root cause event. So if you're having any difficulties in the present, it's typically because of something that happened in your timeline that created a difficulty, and then you end up reliving that. So any difficulties you're having today can be tracked back to a root cause event in your timeline. And so there's a meditation called cleaning your timeline. So that's something that you would do, is practice cleaning your timeline. And then some of the others, I won't go into any great detail, but there's something called values. And what I mean by values here is really simply what's important to you. And I think I mentioned at the very beginning that the way an advertiser motivates you to do something is they figure out what's important to you, or they make something important to you. So values are what really drives you. So whatever is important to you is what will drive you. And so we'll go into values. And then something called meta programs. Meta programs, an example of meta program is when people say that they are an extrovert. And being an extrovert really is a meta program, and it's extreme. So people can be extroverts and people can be introverts, but it's an extreme. It's a spectrum. And where you fall along that spectrum is where you tend to lock yourself, but you're not locked there. You can learn to migrate up and down that spectrum of the degree to which you are an extrovert or an introvert. And finally, we'll work to, the whole purpose of understanding the internal map is understanding strategies. So strategies are what you have internally for what motivates you to do things. And if you can understand what your strategies are, then you can begin to understand why you do things that make you successful and why you might do things that result in unsuccessful behaviors. So those are the main topics, and we'll be plowing through those.
Awesome.
I don't know how long it will take us to get through all of these, Rose, but it's definitely longer than 10 weeks.
Yes, I imagine so. And it may even be longer. I am so excited about this. So, course one, will just to clarify, we're going to be doing this on Wednesday mornings, and it's going to start next week, or is next week another little warm up?
Well, I think we can start with the meditation session, for the open free meditation sessions on next Wednesday. And then as we build up the Patreon group, then we can kick off the internal map.
Okay. And then should I show the Patreon site now so people can get acquainted with it. And
Yeah, that's a
if you
good
see
idea.
where they're okay, so let me just bring that up. So it would be patreon.com/Stephen D. Oliver, because we agreed he was gonna have the job of setting up that website, and then I set up our YouTube channel for the Patreon. Oh, I didn't do it right. So I'm just gonna go to Patreon. This is how you find it. Patreon.com. And actually, didn't you say that you should be able to find me by just saying Rose 777? Yeah, it worked.
Well, theoretically, you should be able to search. Oh, okay.
All right, let me share the screen. And then I have to go because I have to get Crow and Jason started on a meeting in 10 minutes. And it's really exciting. This is
Okay, so
another family that just gave birth using our documentation and
oh,
protecting the baby, a beautiful, healthy, happy baby. So we want to bring her on the show to,
wow,
talk about their
fantastic.
positive experience, because they had an unexpected experience. And so when you're in that stressful situation and one of the most important days of your life, that's when you really need to have memorized like what you want. And the cool thing about this for everyone else that's scared of legal stuff, it was really like they looked at the legal documents, but they went in with nothing because it was unexpected. They didn't want to go to the hospital. And they just, how when you have confidence, you look people in the eye, they can't avoid that human component unless they're totally gone in zombies. But anyway, I'm sorry that I am rambling. Let's get to the point here. Share screen. And then we're going to the Patreon that you created. And so are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay. So right now, this is temporary. If you pay $5 per month, do you think it'll take longer than a month to do the course?
It's going to be individual, really.
Okay. Good to know.
I,
So
my feeling is that probably to get through all the material, it's probably looking at 2 or 3 months, and then people will decide whether they. So there's 3 levels to this. Is one thing to learn about what the map is and how it works and so on. The next level is to be able to actually use it. And so I'd like people to be able to get to the point where they not only know all the components of the map, but they can actually use it for themselves. And so I'm kind of thinking we leave that kind of open-ended.
all right, cool. Well, this is my first time ever doing anything like this, and thank you for setting this up. I think all of this makes sense. So check out this website by searching for me, or also it says here patreon.com/Steve D. Oliver. So I did Steven. So we're going by Steve in the URL. Let me get rid of that.
Oops.
That's okay. And so, thank you so much to everyone for joining us this morning as we do this little pre show cheerleading show. And I hope to see everyone next Wednesday morning as we begin the course. Sign up for the Patreon now, or don't sign up. See what happens next time. And then you can always sign up and then see that course. And what I think we should do, Steve, is save all of it. So if you join as a Patreon, you can catch up on the previous streams.
Yes, yes, definitely. And I want to make one last comment before we dash off is please be very careful of naysayers. There are always going to be people who will, for whatever reason, put up a barrier, put up a block. And I've seen this a lot. So please be careful. Trust your heart. We're doing this really from a very good spot. We want people to be able to progress and learn. And if you bump into a naysayer, treat them as a naysayer and get the heck away from them. That's my position anyway.
I agree with that position completely. And so, what else is there to mention before we end? We just released a brand new episode of Code 777 Radio. Muhammad is back from episode 344, which was very interesting, talking about the Karin and the Dajjal and all of these like mind science ideas that people don't know about, because as far as we're concerned as Americans, ever since 2001, we didn't hear about like their spiritual um ideas and the way that they describe the mind sciences. And so that was a really good episode, but it sounded bad. The audio was bad. And so this time we made sure the audio was good. And this is going to be a great episode. I hope you will enjoy it and you will be able to understand every word of our British accent Moroccan man. The reason he has a British accent is because he went to boarding school in England, but now he's in good old America. He's been here since 1998. So he saw everything coming because he knew all about the occult back then. Can you imagine? So I hope you enjoy
Well,
the episode. And it's just oh, and then after that, I don't know if it's the one right after that, but we are going to have a doctor on the show Crow 777 Radio, where he's going by Big Al. And the thing is he ended up in the hospital, and even though he knows everything, listens to the show and understands that there are certain things like remdesivir that will kill you. I don't know why his wife wasn't with him. Maybe he just didn't have the paperwork, and I wish that he did. But the wife wasn't there, and then they had to hire a lawyer. So even with the wife on the phone every day, and even with him being a doctor and making declinations verbally, and hiring that lawyer, they, after 20 declinations of remdesivir, they managed to get a dose in him. So really, this is something very important. And it's a good story. He's feeling better now, but I mean, he feels like crap because of what they did to him in the hospital. So the point is,
right.
we just need to prevent going to the hospital, like as soon as you feel something coming on, and don't let that fear virus get you. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll see you with Steve D. Oliver or Stephen D. Oliver, depending on whether you're going by Patreon. And cheers and love to all. Bye.
Yeah, cheers, everybody. Bye bye.